Caleb Williams.
Welcome in, everyone, to a very special episode of the Barely Educated podcast. As always, I am Mark, joined by Chris. We have a few things we're going to do today, a couple new things. We've got a Bills-Bears preseason game to react to, 2 Hard Knocks episodes to react to, and a preseason game tomorrow with the Bengals, and the practice yesterday versus the Bengals, which coaches always say is like this big deal, these joint practices. So we have that to react to. So let's get to it. Chris, how are you?
Doing all right, man. Doing okay. Summer's pretty much over. Getting back to the classroom next week.
Yep,
and that,
same.
And that means the regular season is just around the corner.
Yes, we are, I believe, Devin Hester jersey number days away from the regular season, if I'm keeping up with the people tweeting that out every day.
That's Hall of Famer Devin Hester to you,
That's
buddy.
right. Yep. And if I'm a day off, then we're either Khalil Herbert or Matt Forte. Days off. So either way,
that's right.
We can work with it. So we wanted to try a couple new things today to have some fun with it and maybe get a little structure. And the first one is the Teichler hot take. This is something that's on the venerable meatball composer's mind in the sports, basically football world, mostly Bears world, this time of year, definitely Bears world, that he's got to get off his chest. But I feel like it could also merge into Justin Herbert's overrated because there was a Sunday night game that you didn't like or something. I don't know. It could get ridiculous, which would be a ridiculous hot take and a bad one. But yeah, let's hear it. What's the first Teichler hot take?
And the way I see these is that I give my hot take and then you kind of rub your head in disgust and explain why people should keep listening to this show.
Okay.
All right, so here's hot take number 1. Jordan Love will take a step or 2 back this season. Last year he had way too many lucky plays, especially the falling backwards rainbow lob to a wide open wide receiver. To me, this speaks more about Matt LaFleur's coaching and ability to scheme guys open. Is Jordan Love good? Sadly, it looks like it. Better than I expected? Absolutely. But is he a third straight franchise QB for the Packers? I'm not convinced, and he certainly isn't deserving of being the highest paid quarterback of all time. Expect Jordan Love to return to earth this year.
Ooh, I like it. That's juicy. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. So is he good? Yeah, I have to grudgingly say he's good. It was too good last year to be like, he's trash, which we were all hoping he'd be trash.
Yeah.
Nothing personal, Jordan. You're just a Packer.
You seem like a good guy, actually.
Yeah, he helped the person that was stranded. That was a cool story.
Yeah, that's
actually.
awesome.
But third straight franchise QB for them is pure torture, although I think we finally have ours. But still, it's still pure torture. Is he worth being the highest paid QB? Absolutely not. That one, I think we can lock in that's just because that's what happens when it's your turn.
Right.
Anymore now. If you're good enough for them to extend you, when it's your turn, you will be the new highest paid. So enjoy your year of being the highest paid QB because someone's going to take that away from you next year. Is he a franchise QB? That's tougher. So good, yes. Highest paid player, what? Yeah. Franchise QB, give it a definite maybe.
I need to see more, that's all. I just need to be convinced.
His step back that you think he's going to take, is that also while he's lobbing a rainbow while he steps back? Because that's his move. That's the thing that gets me. I'm waiting to see if defensive coordinators are going to adjust to that.
Exactly.
Like his signature move is supposed to be unsustainable. We've been told our whole lives that you can't get away with that this often.
Right. 100%.
But he has, as you mentioned, and this was a great first hot take, Matt LaFleur is an awesome coach. We all wondered about the Rodgers effect there. Nah, he's the goods.
Yep. He really
scares me more than Love does.
Agreed.
In a sense. They've got the whole, I don't have a number 1 receiver. It makes me want to barf when people talk about it, which was a great soundbite from Matt LaFleur. And you had Dan Orlovsky say they had the best receiving core and plus tight ends in the division, which was completely stupid. It's easily the Bears, Vikings,
Mm-hmm.
Lions, Packers. This is not just because you have five interchangeable pieces doesn't mean you're better than the ones that have stars. Like what?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing here? I'd entertain Vikings and Bears at the top, not Packers. But that makes them hard to defend to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
But my point, trying to think about it from a defensive coordinator's perspective, is who are they taking away and what happens when they do that? Jordan Love also had some terrible games.
He did.
We can probably all remember two game-ending interceptions, including one against the Niners in the playoffs. That was a dreadful throw,
Mm-hmm.
but he's good. I can't say he's bad. But yeah, I agree with you on the questions about the franchise QB and that he's the highest paid QB is remarkable. And one last thing on that. Do you find it delicious irony or pure torture that they traded Rodgers because didn't want to pay him anymore because they had Love, and then turned around and a year later had to give Love a record deal? Is this like hilarious to Bears fans or just more, poking with needles?
it's it's
It's
pretty.
kind of a weird thing, right?
Yeah, it is. It is pretty funny. But Lorden, I said Jordan and Love together. Lorden, he's younger, so from that perspective, it makes a little more sense to me. But man, that's just a lot of money on a small sample size. Unless they
That's
just
very true.
unless they just love what he's been doing in practice. No pun intended.
And it should actually highlight how bungled the situation was with Rodgers and Love in the transition, because you can say, well, look, they found a third in a row. Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of definitely at the top of the analysis. If it's true, kudos, jerks. But they left themselves in a position where if he was good, they didn't have a choice, but they
Mm-hmm.
only got to see if he was good for 1 year before they didn't have a choice. If anything, they should have just not drafted him until they actually needed the QB, or moved on from Rodgers a year earlier, but he won the MVP, and that, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you can still question how this all came to be, even if the results look pretty good right now. And they got the O-line factory up there and the QB factory up there and the pass rusher factory up there, and they're just a pain. But when I can criticize them, by golly, I will.
Yes, sir.
All
Yes, sir.
right. Our other new bit idea is the meatball moment.
Mm.
This is mostly during the regular season going to be something that happened in the Bears game that channeled our inner meatball, got the inner meatball fired up. But this time of year, I think it could be any kind of thing, really, because you're also looking at like the storylines this time of year, and it could be a storyline during the season. It's not that rigid, but I thought it'd be fun if we each gave one in basically since we last recorded, I guess. It might make most sense in the regular season schedule to do them as post game,
Yeah,
though. But anyway,
that sounds good.
so I'll go first and then you on these. Oh, but wait. First, I got to do the big voice
Yes,
guy.
we need big voice guy.
The meatball moment.
Oh
We need a sponsor. This is where the sponsor,
yeah. Yes.
brought to you by absolutely no one. Uh, the moment that channeled my inner meatball was, it's such an easy pick, and I'm sorry if it's cliched in a sense because it's been talked about so much. We're like almost a week late talking about this game, but that throw to Komet on the run in the Bills game by Caleb Williams, and I was just like, it still works in the pros because I watched him do that in college for 2 years.
Mm.
And seeing guys like Josh Allen and Mahomes and the other QBs who can do that in the pros, and realizing our guy can do that in the pros too.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. It's super hard not to do that with Caleb because he looked really good, and we'll come back to that. But that moment, if you were watching that as a Bears fan and you didn't get excited about that, I question if you have been scarred for life by Bears quarterbacks.
Fair. Yes.
Because what I really loved about it, beyond just the athleticism and the arm talent on display, is he had an easy, what was it, 7 yards or whatever on the shallow one, and he's like, "No, I can hit this deeper one." And man, I love that. Please, Eberflus, do not coach that aggression out of him.
And it was a rope, like
Yep.
20, 25 yards zip.
And Komet did a great job getting open.
Mm-hmm.
He outran the guy, which was cool.
Yeah. Didn't know if we'd ever see that.
So I feel like that's a very fitting first meatball moment.
I love it. I jumped off the couch when I saw that.
Exactly
And
what I'm going for with this.
mhm.
Exactly.
Oh man. So I 100% endorsed that one. For mine, I'm gonna go something off the field and go with the intro to Hard Knocks when
Oh, the
they
first
were
one. Yeah.
Oh, when they were showing shots of downtown with the voice playback of the NFL Films big voice guy, like George Hallis and his Chicago Bears, and about catapulting the league onto the world stage, or I can't remember the exact wording. I'll try to find it and throw it in at the end maybe. But
Yeah, that was cool.
oh man, I was like getting all goosebumpy and the blood was pumping, and I turned to my son and said, "Oh, get me a helmet, put me in. I'm ready."
Are you
Um,
extending this to the Bulls intro for Caleb Williams?
I did like that. Yeah,
Or
that.
was that too much?
Um, no, I don't think it was too much. From the angle they were coming at as Caleb Williams has the potential to be the biggest thing in Chicago since Michael Jordan. It
Hmm.
it made sense to me, and that was the announcer too. It sure sounded like
Yeah,
the
it was cool seeing him doing it. Like
yeah
I
the
was like,
night.
not what I thought you'd look like. They never are.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that
But
was fun. Good
that
call.
was so. Yeah, I loved it, and I've been enjoying Hard Knocks. I wasn't sure um, how how much I would, but we can talk more about that later
No,
too.
let's do Hard Knocks now while we're
Okay.
here. We
All right.
meandered over to it. I thought the history stuff was fun. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
shout out to my kid Avery, my 10-year-old, who brought home yesterday. Her library book is a 2023 Bears book,
Oh my
which has,
goodness.
guess who's on the cover for the 2023 Bears little
Uh,
book at the library?
Justin Fields.
No,
Oh,
more
interesting.
established than Fields was.
More
It's
established.
gonna throw you off though because it's about the 2023 Bears, like preseason kind of thing. And this guy was no longer on the Bears.
Hmm.
So who would be a prominent Bear from the previous year is really what it is. It's tough. David Montgomery.
Oh, interesting.
And so I'm looking over it with her, and it's actually what it is. It goes through like the whole history of the Bears
Nice.
and like lots of cool photos. It's for kids, but it's like pretty well done. And I'm like, who made this? So when you brought up the history, I was like, oh, I gotta mention that. So
Yeah.
got to give myself a pat on the back for the parenting win,
Yeah,
which
for
I used to
real.
say was a loss, making your kids Bears fan, but not anymore.
That's right.
But she's
That's
over there
right.
during the whole "okay, everybody go read" portion of the evening, reading up on the Bears.
Wow.
Gotta love it. Okay, back to Hard Knocks.
That's cool. Yes.
I have enjoyed it. I think the Bears are having a lot more say than teams typically actually do.
Oh,
And the
interesting.
first thing I noticed on that, which I actually like, is no swearing.
I love the Bears.
Because aforementioned daughter Avery really wants to watch it. And I'm like,
Oh,
you can't yet because I've seen previous Hard Knocks. Let's
okay.
just say the Dan Campbell episodes were a tad different.
Okay. This is the first I've watched, so this is new to me too. Okay.
But I'm like, we're 2 episodes in, no swearing, and my wife has greenlit letting the child watch them. So
Okay.
now there have been some things where I was like, man, I wish we'd get like a little more though. Like it's been fun because I'm a Bears fan, but I totally get anyone who's not a total Bears junkie being like, this episode didn't really do much for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're not giving you much of an inside look. And compared to the Giants offseason one, which was hilariously stupid at how much they gave us an inside look, it was like, yeah, the Bears are never doing that.
Mm.
So I can see why people are like somewhat disappointed, but I'm having fun every week with it. And some of the personalities coming out are just great. Like it's fun to see DJ and Keenan Allen cutting up,
Mm-hmm.
Rome making fun of Caleb for being the default player and creative player in Madden. He's like, look at that guy. Look how he looks, man. That's the default character. I thought it was a clip that didn't make the episode, but I saw it later. But anyway, have you learned much? That's my thing. That I'm kind of like, yeah, I can't really give it like a 10.
Um, I I think the stuff that was interesting to me, especially practice wise, was the assistant coaches that you never really see or hear much about in
Yeah,
the
that is
news.
cool.
So
That
like
running backs coach
the
is a
running backs
character.
coach, especially, I don't even know his name, but the way he was kind of getting on the undrafted kid, can't remember his name either.
Yeah, he's really
Um,
speedy. He's got the long hair. He's gonna go
yeah,
be a doctor. None of us can
right.
remember his
Yeah, gonna be
name.
a doctor. That was a cool story too.
That was
His
cool. Those are the
backstory.
players that they've always done a good job spotlighting.
Okay. Yeah. I enjoyed that, and showing how the coach was getting on him, but then was there to give him the praise when he deserved it. That was.
Yeah, there were
That
some
was
good
cool to
scenes.
see.
I'm not disappointed, but I can see why someone who's not a Bears fan might think that way. I love DJ's family. That was great.
Yeah.
DJ signing the contract was really cool, except for how fake it was because Kevin Warren's in there like, oh, look at the deal. Oh, so it's the big. It's like, get off the camera, man. He's shameless. But that was so awkward and forced. He's a
Mm,
goof.
I'm not a
I wanted
fan.
to be excited. I was when they hired him because Ted's track record was so bad in terms of the football team's success.
Right.
And I realized Kevin Warren's job is to do the stadium, and we've talked a lot about that, and I'm sure we'll be talking more about it in the months and whatever to come. But he is so hungry for the camera that he inserted himself totally unnecessarily, and I thought it was plain as day. It's like, what is he doing here? But kudos to him and Poles for giving out lemonade to people at the practice. Was that Tuesday's practice? Can you
Nice.
imagine you're just going to go concessions for your kid who won't shut up about wanting a lemonade and the GM and president are the two people working that? Like that's pretty awesome.
That is cool. That is
So
kind of
I'll give
cool.
him some love for that for sure.
Hmm.
But it just seems like everything he does is for the camera, for the rep. He's just such a politician.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't
I
know. I don't know.
definitely
But
see
so that
that a
was one of
lot.
my negatives coming out of the two episodes.
Did you like the well, I'll just tell you that my wife watched episode one with me, and she was dying of laughter when the Canadian
I knew that was going
lineman
to
guy
be
did
brought up.
sang the that overdone Lee Greenwood song, and
That was great. Yeah, he was hilarious. I hope he gets back and can be on the
yeah,
practice squad at least, just
yeah.
because you need those kind of characters in a long season. Caleb was a dreadful singer.
Oh
Don't care.
man, that whoa.
But
Hey,
did you
if
hear somebody was saying, was it Rome on the score? Somebody was saying that he did a redo the next day and it was much better and they didn't show that one.
oh,
Like they made him do it over.
I could
Also kind of funny.
be wanting to do that, yeah. Yeah. Um, I like the QB, his family. Oh, what's his name?
Austin
The
Reed.
Austin Reed, yeah, and his parents and his dad's disappointment when the first game got rained out. He's like, there it is.
Yeah, so
um,
Jenna's watched it with me and she's like, "You have that shirt." I'm like, "I do."
oh,
She's a
nice.
dad. It's a dad bear shirt. I'm like, it sure is.
Nice. So the reminder that these guys are human, and not
Yeah.
just gladiators. That's good. And like I said, I've never watched the Hard Knocks before, so um, if you're saying that this is a regular thing that they do, but for me, it's the first time I've seen it. So
They've loved to do the heart-wrenching guy got cut stories, which they're apparently trying not to do anymore, but they have to spotlight somebody.
mm.
And they did the Jonathan Owens and Simone Biles, and some of that was
That
like
was cool.
right there on a tee for them. There's no way they weren't going to do it, but it was
Right.
still cool. I'm also like not really dying to like Layla and Lawrence won't shut up about the journalistic quality and lack of it or whatever because it's a documentary. And I'm like, you guys are being way too literal with that term. It's about a football team getting ready for the season. This isn't like investigating the Kennedy assassination or something
Right.
like ooh, we're the journalists. Ooh.
Ah,
Like, dude,
okay.
this is to follow players and coaches around and show their personalities, and that's about it.
Hmm.
Let's all calm down on the expecting a deep documentary on anything Bears here.
Is that just looking for a story?
I don't
You
know.
think,
It's a
or
talking point, but the other day, I guess they were doing it just now because cousin Nate
cousin Nate?
sent me a text about it. He's annoyed by it too. And but I caught it earlier in the week and then turned it off because I was like, you guys are just like making this less fun.
Hmm.
Have I seen better seasons? Yeah, the Lions one was probably better because Dan Campbell's hysterical and they're
Nuts.
crazy.
Hmm.
And the Giants one was amazing and no one will ever do it again. So yeah, if that's your standard, fine. Be less entertained. But I'm a Bears fan who loves it, and I don't need it to be like heavy hitting. I don't know why we think they're going to do that.
Yeah.
Bears are not going to let them do that. And kudos to the Bears. I think kudos to the Bears for like trying to keep it cleaner.
Yeah. Yeah, and George McCaskey has made no secret of how he feels about the whole thing too.
Yeah.
So
Last question.
yeah.
Kind of important on Hard Knocks. A little bit, maybe a little bit important. How do you think Flus has come off?
It's funny you bring that up because I one of the things I jotted down here was I wonder what Caleb really thinks of Flus.
Yes, because that was such a forced scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we got to get something of you coaching up the quarterback. Kid's like, okay, yeah, yeah. Huh. Like you
Yeah.
could tell he's like, I know that we're not really doing this with any seriousness. It looked very forced to me.
Yeah, I don't know his body language or his
Like he wasn't
uh
rude, but it just wasn't like an
no,
actual
no.
conversation at
Yeah,
all.
yeah, it didn't look legit. Yeah. And so I wondered, okay, what I'd really like to know what Caleb's really thinking here. Like there's no reason to think he doesn't like Eberflus, but to think, hey, this guy's going to give me good insight on being a quarterback, or at least more than my QB coach and offensive coordinator. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that it was staged more than anything else, and maybe that's
Yeah.
why it looked awkward.
I'd
But
rather
some,
them just not do the stage scenes if that's the
yeah,
result. So
it
like that criticism I'm on board with.
it just didn't look normal or
It
right, and
didn't.
I
And I'm
wondered,
like, this better not be the normal way that this goes.
yeah,
But
and
Caleb himself has said that it can help sometimes when they reverse engineer what the defense is doing.
yeah. Well, and
So
Tom
like
Brady
that's
made a
more of a real coaching. That was Brady and
true,
Belichick. I
right?
mean, there
Yeah,
aren't that many examples of it working, but one of the examples of this working is the greatest example ever.
right, exactly.
So I don't know what you want
That's
to
a
do with
good one.
that.
I'll put that in
But
the pro column. Yeah.
write that one down.
Yeah.
But everything else that Flus says, even that the cameras show us him saying, let me be more clear, is so generic.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yes.
like, he could very well be this generic.
You could.
He's still my absolute biggest concern with this whole rebuild. I just do
100%.
not buy into him strategically until he proves it at the end of games. I love that he plays young players, not
Hmm.
afraid to play young players. There's a lot of coaches who are. That means he embraced the rebuild, and we owe him a little bit for that at least, because it's his own record, getting tanked. And he seems like a good guy.
Yes.
But when he's like, all right, we're going to level up, right? You guys
Right.
did that today, right? We
Right.
executed for the man next to us. Okay. It's like, does he have a mental checklist of cliches and then the word right after all of them? Brutal to listen to. And I'm just afraid the players are like, can I go talk to the coordinator yet? You know what I mean?
It's on my mind. It really is, especially with our quarterback. Yep.
But they bought in at the end of the year last year,
They sure
and he
did.
does call a mean defense on game
Yes.
day. Just don't nerf the QB's natural abilities and aggression. Do not do what you did to Justin, where you try to make him fix 15 things when he's already trying to process. That was all part of the problem. So far, so good with Caleb. Seems like they're pretty much letting him be himself. Waldron is already way better than Getsy. I could tell
Oh,
in
yes.
the first quarter of the Bills game. It's like
Oh,
all levels
yes.
of the field, check. Middle of the field, check. Mix of run and pass, check. And then we turn it up in the red zone. So
Yeah.
now I've
And
transitioned to the Bills game. See
yeah,
that? That was a
and
beautiful segue.
it was very nice. Bravo. And why aren't they going for it on a preseason game in the red zone? Like, come
Oh, that was the bad.
on.
Those were the bad. That was all I've got. That was a great game, other than red zone, turtling up, and not going for it. Does Cairo Santos need to prove that he can make a 31-yard field goal? Go give him a 50-something, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Just go for it on fourth down inside the 20, please.
Yeah.
It's practice.
That is the what you've been worried about with Eberflus in the defensive, not trying not to lose um, coaching strategy.
Yep. Now, I will say on the second drive, the first one was dreadful play calling in the red zone. And I don't know if that was just like, no, we're running these plays. We don't care where we're at on the field. And like, we don't have that context as fans. It's preseason weirdness. But I would be like very irritated if they did that in a game. The second one, there was the throw in the end zone. He wanted Rome to break it off to the corner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was that was not a as shy a series as the previous one. Same result with a field goal.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the preseason game was a blast, and I was like, "We're the champs, baby. We beat the Bills. Then we
It's
practiced
right.
against the Bengals, and we beat them. Our backups are going to handle the Chiefs on Thursday next week.
That's right.
It's kind of fight Bills, Bengals, Chiefs. That's like
That's a
a pretty
serious.
interesting preseason gauntlet if the
Mm-hmm.
ones are playing, which is of course a huge asterisk, and I'm just being silly here.
Of course.
But there's a lot to like about the rest of that Bills game, and they played their ones, and the Bears won that 6-0. Whatever you want to do with that. And Sean McDermott was ticked. And you watch that
Yes, he
game,
was.
you can't conclude that the Bears aren't playing hard for Flus. Somehow it's
Hmm.
working. And I wonder if there's a different Flus than what the cameras are giving us.
That could be. I remember there was a reference to that towards the end of last season on the score that someone said when he's off camera, he's totally different.
Well, the players on the defense, at bare minimum, they love him.
Bare minimum.
Hopefully the rest do. Yeah, there you go. Pun
Hey.
intended or something. Other things from the preseason game, because we can't miss this. I loved so many of Caleb's plays that I'm going to sound ridiculous, but that's okay. I'm all here for it. The fact that he went through his progressions and hit DJ Moore on a throw with anticipation for the first completion to get a first down
Mm-hmm.
on 3rd and 12. But how often
Mm-hmm.
do the Bears convert 3rd and 12? I
Yeah,
don't care
usually.
if they're playing kindergartners. They actually converted a 3rd and long.
And that they didn't get 11 or 10 yards on the 3rd and 12
Yes.
too.
And he didn't throw it underneath or
Hmm.
panic. The hilarious arm angle on the screen to Swift.
Oh yeah, that like little catapult
I
whoop
mean, I've
thing.
been talking to you about Caleb Williams all year. I've been talking to people
Hmm.
like Cousin Nate going back to 23, and
Cousin
I'm like,
Nate.
this guy does remind me of Patrick Mahomes. Then everyone's like, ooh, no, you can't say that this year because his year wasn't quite as ridiculous as 23. And I'm like, no, I can't because he does stuff like that. And only a
Hmm.
couple guys in the league do stuff like that.
Hmm.
I'm not
Right.
saying he's going to have that start to his career. I'm just saying there's a reason people comp them.
Hmm.
And he showed you it on that and the commit thread that we already talked about. And I loved the scramble.
Yes.
Did you catch his explanation for it?
No, I did not.
Okay, so and there's a tweet going around too. I can't remember who put it out there where the guy overdubbed Caleb's voice on the play highlight after the all 22 or whatever. And Caleb's like, yeah, they showed me single high, so one safety deep. And then when I snapped it, they dropped it to cover two, but they were cover two man. So the safeties are deep and everybody else had their back to me, and I knew the run was there.
Well, that's nice.
Isn't that a beautiful breakdown? And here's why
Yes.
that struck me as super interesting. One, the cerebral part of the game is the most important part of the game. It's the part of the game the Bears QBs never have.
True.
That's why Brady's the greatest of all time. It's not his athleticism,
Definitely not.
right? Like his arm's fine. He doesn't move around
Yeah.
at all. He just
Hmm.
outthinks you over and over and over and over and over.
Hmm.
Caleb knew that immediately, took off, great play, first down, was smart enough not to take a hit, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't want to do the whole Caleb Fields thing forever. It's natural to do it a little though.
Yeah,
And
of
I couldn't
course.
help but have the thought like that was such a controlled scramble. Like, oh,
Mm.
this is what I'm doing now. Not a whoop, no, wait, where do I throw it? Oh, wait, whoop, dodge him. Let me take off because I'm an amazing athlete,
Yeah.
which is what Fields does, which there's value in that, but it's like chaos. Whereas
Mm.
this is the proper decision, and I know it, and I'm gone.
Seemed more in control of the situation.
Yeah, and I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And then because when he broke it down, it was like reinforced all that.
Mm. Yeah. A couple things I jotted down about Caleb in the Bills game was that number one, he sure looked as advertised.
Sure did. One
So,
bad throw, but he knew he was held because he was stumping for the flag on the one bad throw.
mhm. Yep. And then the second thing I wrote was that he didn't look small, and I was worried about that.
He does
Like
on Hard Knocks, right?
he does,
A
yeah.
little bit because my
Hmm.
kids watched the first half of the first one. She's like, he looks short. I'm like, he does kind of look short, but he's like normal height. He's not like tall for sure, like for QBs. He's 6'1".
But
That's
on
what they
the
list him as.
right, yeah. But on the field, he did not. So I
Yeah.
was relieved to see that because I didn't know. Is that like he's really 5'11", but we're gonna call him 6'1", or
Yeah, how
but
much do they round up these guys?
hmm
Sometimes we know, like Bryce Young is not what he's listed.
yeah, and he
Caleb
did.
probably not either, but it's not that far off.
Yeah, so that was a big relief to me that he did not look. I mean, I didn't expect him to look like Bryce Young out there size
Right.
wise,
Well, he's
but
also just stronger.
yeah. So that was a relief to me too. It's like, okay, all right, I can take that off of my. And I had forgotten that I was worried about it until I saw him out there. So
Yeah.
you know, the Bears roster too. This isn't about Caleb specifically, but the roster just looks better top to bottom. There's
There are
depth.
still a couple places that you would like to add, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's good. It's there. It's a good, solid roster. It might be really good.
Hmm. Do you think by the end of the year Austin Booker is starting?
Glad you brought him up. Probably
Okay.
not. I think he played the run great Saturday, but I still feel like against the big time offensive lines, just the ones, they're going to run right at him. But I hope he gets a lot of snaps in obvious passing situations. He
Mhm.
has already shown a serious skill set. Two and a
Yeah.
half sacks and a tackle for a loss. Five, I think, total tackles. That's a
Yeah.
game no matter who you're playing.
Right. And it
When
is
you're
a
21 and you're a fifth round pick, he's doing his job right now. Let's hope it
yeah.
gives him enough chances in the regular season.
Yeah. And it's against backups, but he's dominated the
Yeah. So,
backup.
like, would he be
Like,
okay against starters? I don't know. I feel like I said, I think the strength would be an issue with the run game, but I
okay.
feel like if you coach it right and use him right, which I think they'll do, because that's the side they're good at, I think he can make an impact.
Hmm.
I think he could finish second or third on the team in sacks,
That'd be amazing.
which
Yeah.
maybe is a problem on a certain level too.
Well,
But
and that can be the first thing I thought of was Mark Anderson in
and 12's probably not
2006.
happening, but
Right, yeah. But remember that Mark Anderson in '07, because of all of his double digit sacks, he actually beat out Alex Brown to be the starter in '07. And after like two
mhm.
games, it was like, okay, yeah, that was not a good idea.
Yeah, he wasn't
But
a complete player.
right. So
And
yeah, I
it's such a good gamble in the fifth round right now.
mm-hmm,
Like
for
the
real.
gamble is you're picking him on traits and upside, and that's perfect for the fifth round.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you hit, it's genius.
Yeah.
They maybe did. We'll see.
And
I'm glad you brought him up.
some of the KU fans I know around here was like, "Hey, the Bears got one of our defensive players." I said, "Yeah, he better be good." And
What he has that I really like is so like when you have that kind of a body type at end, there'll be sometimes you'll see a guy who's like that lengthy, and like really long arms, and they'll never actually do the long arm move.
mm,
Which is to keep the tackle from being able to get his hands on you to the same extent. And he does it all the time. Like,
yeah,
yes, please play to that strength.
hmm
Anything else from the Bills game?
um, no, I just liked what I saw. As much as you can like a preseason game
Yep.
and actually get stuff from it.
I'm
Nope,
still a little worried about the O line. Darnell Wright
legit,
hasn't
yeah.
really looked that good, and he's a
Mm,
big deal. And I'm not worried to where I'm like, oh no, let's panic about the second year right tackle. Not at all. I just wish he was a little bit more like what we saw last year. It kind of looks like he's still rounding into shape or playing with an injury. Like he looks a little slow. I feel like, and I know Sweat was crushing him in camp when Sweat was still practicing. They're
hmm
like, that's enough of that. You're hurt. He
Yeah.
hasn't practiced in forever, doesn't need to. So that's like one thing I'm keeping my eye on. But then if we transition to the other kind of big topic, the Bengals practice yesterday. So for those of you who aren't aware, this is like a trend in the NFL where they do these joint practices, 1 or 2 days. They've started to kind of go away from the 2 days because they'd always fight the second day. And a lot of times they will do that and then not play the ones in the corresponding preseason game. That's like 2 or 3 days later. The Bengals are doing that. They're not playing their ones, but the
Mm,
Bears are playing their ones. And so the Bears Bengals practice, it's supposed to be like the coaches all say that this is a better gauge than the preseason games because it's ones versus ones
mm.
for all the 11 on 11 drills and all that. And the Bears picked off Burrow 3 times.
Whoa.
They almost had two others. Caleb threw an interception right off the bat and then 3 touchdowns from there. And like there's a Bengals beat reporter going on, it's like a video about how he's like, it was not good. And he's like, and I couldn't have been more impressed with Caleb Williams. And it's like, yes, give me the
Beautiful.
mostly non-biased people.
Right.
Look,
Yes.
anybody listening to this should hopefully know better than to think he's gonna be awesome because we think it. Like, of course we think that. I'm just being honest. But
Hmm.
there are really good reasons we think that. And the thing is, tons of people think that. And it was cool to see the Bears give a contender fits, to see like all the tweets after the practice.
Mm. It's been a while.
They don't suck.
They don't. They don't suck.
Nick Wright said they're the fourth best roster in the league.
Wow.
I think people are sleeping on what it means to have this good of skill positions. 3 deep at receiver, 2 deep at tight end, 2 or 3 deep at running back. If the line holds up, they're good. The offense is actually going to be good, guys, because Caleb's not going to be trash.
No.
We don't know how good yet. We don't know how good, how quickly, but I know he's not terrible.
Yeah. One
I'm
of the.
telling you, you can already tell that from 1 quarter.
Yeah.
I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's the traits. It's the way he carries himself. It's the way they talk about him, his teammates.
Yeah, and one other, if I can go back to the Bills game for a second, and your meatball moment play, actually. Um, the Bills blitzed on that.
Yeah.
So, like, he read the blitz and reacted accordingly and made that big
And he
play
pump faked
downfield.
to buy that split second to
Yeah,
get the deeper route.
yeah. So,
There's like some real, like, this is either you don't have it or you have it natural awareness and calmness. He's
mm-hmm.
so much better in the pocket than we're used to, also.
Yes, yeah. And I can't
These
remember.
traits are going to translate. I'm convinced.
I can't remember if it was a DB or a linebacker that blitzed on that play, but he came from Caleb's right side, and yeah, he knew what to do, got out of there, made a big play downfield, and the fact that yeah, it was a preseason game, but the Bills, they weren't being vanilla. They were trying to get after him.
Okay, I had a couple more things on the docket here. So, Flus announced yesterday that they are going to play the ones tomorrow versus the Bengals.
Yep.
Two questions. Where do you come down on playing them versus not in the preseason? And since they are playing, what do you want to see?
Well, I just want Caleb to get more snaps before the regular season. It's really, for me, it's that. That's the main thing. Just to get him as close to real game time situations as possible before the season begins. And while he's getting some of that in this practice with the Bengals, I think there's still value in being in the stadium with the fans around, with the refs there, with the cameras and everything. So to me, I'm fine with Caleb playing because of that. As far as some of the like, if Keenan Allen doesn't play, fine.
Mhm.
There's some of the older vets like that. If Cole Kmet didn't play, okay, fine. Um, so I guess I don't have a flat response for the whole game or the whole team, but just more for individuals and what would be best for them.
Yes, I agree with most of that. It's always a talking point. Should the starters play in the preseason? And the Eagles
Right.
never play anybody, and the Chiefs used to never, and now they always play. And Mahomes said he wants to play.
Oh,
It's like, okay, what
sure.
the best guy in the world's like, yeah, I got to shake off the rust. Maybe there's
Mm-hmm.
something to it. I've come down though to the point where I feel like it's sort of just ridiculous. You have to have a crystal ball to answer this question. If you could promise me that they will come out week one and not look like they looked last year, week one,
Yeah,
they'd come out sharp, I'd be like, well, don't risk the injury.
that's a great point.
If you could promise me they won't get hurt, okay, play them. You know what I mean? Like it's that's why it's always going to be impossible to say.
Mm-hmm.
I think Caleb playing is because he's a rookie in a lot of ways. I mean, I want him to be good enough starting next year where they're like, yeah, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Like that would be a good scenario in many respects. But I can understand it being the player saying, I need to shake the rust off too. And you have a new offense
Yes.
with some new pieces. So I think it makes some sense. Just be careful with it, you know. Caleb was pretty good about that. DJ Moore, don't fight for yards. Yeah, it was awesome. He's like, I love football
I love
afterwards.
football.
But it's like,
Yeah.
you're too important. Please
Yeah.
stop.
Uh-huh.
Kind of stop. And I
Mm-hmm.
know players will be like, but I can't play that way. I get it. But I mean, like, after you've
Sure.
made the catch, don't have to fight for the yards. You can get out of bounds, slide. Just let the first guy tackle you if they're about to be four of them, whatever
Mm-hmm.
the, scenario is. Because there is a common sense approach to it as well. And I'm sure they're not going to play more than the first quarter and some change, if even that.
If that, yeah.
Yeah. And I
I guess.
do think one of the reasons I wondered if he's playing, because last year they didn't play anybody after the Colts joint practice. Is Flus trying to change because they weren't ready last year? And also, you referenced it. Do they care about Caleb's first game at Soldier Field, first time going through all the routine, not
Mm-hmm.
being week one? This is only home preseason game.
Mm-hmm.
I would bet you they don't do much against the Chiefs. Short rest.
Yeah.
So this might be the last time we see him until the Titans game. Anyway,
Yeah.
I just thought
And
I'd bring that up
this is well, they do three preseason games now, but they got the extra one.
because they
So
had the Hall of Fame, so they've been
yeah,
practicing forever too.
yeah. So this would be the second one, which on the three preseason game schedule, the second one's probably when you're going to see most
Most
starters play
action,
the way
yeah.
the third game always used to be. But
And it's short rest, but does it matter if you only played a quarter? So I don't even know how to predict the Chiefs game when you think about it.
Hmm.
Okay, two other things that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Shout out to Roma Dunze, who's starting to look really good too. He had that
Mm.
awesome move on Porterell Smith the other day. He It seems like he's a keeper too. And in a normal year, we'd be talking way more about him. So sorry, Rome, that we also drafted a quarterback first overall,
Right.
but something tells me you're totally fine with this.
Yeah.
May you both be around long enough to break all the franchise records.
Amen.
And one more shout out. My guy, cousin Nate's guy, Buddy Brian's guy,
Buddy
I think
Brian.
Danny Parkins.
Oh yeah.
May you bring reasonable, rational, well-informed sports take back to the national scene. Don't change. Do what you've been doing. Your radiothon was awesome. I was listening this morning, getting choked up at some of these people.
Oh,
When the video, I think he's the video guy. Nate thought he was the video guy. Now I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Connor
Connor O'Donnell
O'Donnell. Yeah.
was like, yeah, I'm worried. His 4-year-old died of cancer. I didn't even know this
I
until
didn't
like
know that either.
the
No
radiothon.
idea.
And he's like, yeah, I was afraid I'd forget her. And I'm like, oh my
Oh,
gosh.
that broke me, man, when he
So
said that.
Parkins is doing awesome work raising money for research there, and he will be deeply missed by many people who like this pod. He was, I think, easily the best guy on the score the last several years. And congrats to him. It's, I'm sure, a humongous pay raise, and he's national spotlight, and he's going to bring Bears love with him.
Hope so. Yeah.
So I'm happy for him, and I think the Cubs thing was awesome. And I guess just this once, go Cubs go, because it's
Oh
pretty
my.
cool that they're matching all of it.
Oh my gosh. He said
Wake
it.
me up when the DeWitts do something like that.
Hmm. Hey, two quick things to piggyback off that.
And also FTP.
It's a hey, yes, that's right. As it was and ever shall be. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, so a couple things. Did you see when Ryan Sandberg was on?
Caught that clip.
Oh man, I mean, growing
He
up
was
a
my
Cubs fan,
grandma and my sister's favorite player growing
and
up.
and my favorite Cub of all time, and seeing that, seeing
That was
his
crazy.
humanity. Oh my gosh, I nearly lost it just watching that because
And just like how cool is that? Like that happens like an hour or two before he goes on the air. And I'm sure
yes,
Parkins is an emotional mess, and that all these things are just lining up beautifully. And it's
yeah,
just got to just be amazing for all involved.
yeah. So I'm 47 years old, but when I see Ryan Sandberg, I'm still 8, 9, a little bit. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So to see that, just the pure emotion and that mix of joy and pain and fear, just all kind of coming out at once. Really seeing his humanity, that was hard, but also very inspiring at the same time. You
And
know.
the guy who's had the brain tumor for like 20 years, and they're like, we have no idea why you're still alive. And they just keep studying him.
Wow.
Remarkable stuff.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. The second thing, on a lighter note,
But yeah, let's end on a lighter note. But yeah, I wanted to get that out. We needed
yeah,
to, I wanted
yeah,
to
thank
say
you.
it.
And I'll miss Danny. He's been a good sport on Twitter. You know, if you go after him, he usually
Yeah,
responds.
you
You
know
know,
what I
so
love? I think I'll always remember when Dan Weeder wanted the Bears to learn how to win, and Danny was off, but he called in incensed. He's like, right now? They need to learn it right now when there's nobody on the roster. And if they
hmm.
had, they wouldn't have all the things we have now. Get
And
him, Danny.
that's gonna live on in our podcast because
It is.
I
I'll
I
never let that
clipped
one go.
I clipped two sound bites from that.
Have you lost your mind?
So
That's right.
yeah,
Neither of us will let that go.
yeah.
Do you watch football?
You
But
said a lighter note.
a
Sorry to
lighter
cut you off.
thing, yeah, no, that's fine. One of my students here at the school, trumpet player in my band, big Cardinals fan, and I totally forgot about this. He reminded me that we made a wager at the end of last year that whoever ended up with the worst record between the Cubs and the Cardinals, that fan or the losing team's fan has to wear a jersey of the other team for one piece on our fall band concert.
Love it. This is now the
So
only reason I'm going to be rooting for the Cardinals still the rest of this
okay,
sorry season.
I might be conducting a piece on our fall band concert in a Cardinals
Oh, I
jersey.
think you might be safe on that one.
Cubs just lost 3 in a row.
So did the Cardinals. 4, 5? A bunch. They're contenders, though. Don't you forget.
Okay, all right.
Only 9 games back of the Brewers. They're idiots, man.
Race to
They're totally
the bottom.
delusional.
Yeah.
It is falling apart. Enjoy the bumpy ride we're on.
Yeah. And he and his girlfriend went to a Cubs Cardinals game at Busch this year. This student of mine. So
Poor guy.
actually, they're both still.
Yeah. Can we fire the manager? Just please. Hang on. Let's see the records. All right, Cards are a game under 500. Cubs are 4 under 500. Okay, so he's still. Can we just get back to where they're both good? Is that going to happen ever?
I don't know. Every time I think the Cubs are putting it together this year, then they get swept by like the Guardians.
That's exactly what the Cardinals did. They win 2 out of 3 from the Rangers and then go get demolished by everybody since. Cubs, Reds, swept by the Reds, man. They think they're contenders in August when you're supposed to be making your final push or getting there. Anyway, take us away.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening to this episode of Barely Educated. We got 2 more preseason games, and then it is go time for real. If you like our content and want to help support it, go to our Buy Me a Coffee page, buymeacoffee.com/barely_educated. Join our honor roll for $3 a month. We'll send you a t-shirt that you can proudly wear and display for all your friends and family to admire and be jealous. Find us on Twitter at barely_educated. Sorry, I got tripped up there. I was thinking about how I'm still going to call it Twitter and never X.
It's the preseason. You're still shaking off the
rust. That's right. The short story did my brain. Yeah.
Forever Twitter.
Forever Twitter. And we're also on Facebook. We got a page there. Check us out. If you want to email us, bearlyeducatedpod@gmail.com. We will talk to you next week. Bear down.
Caleb Williams.
We will watch your career with great interest.
Do you watch football?
You did. You crazy son of a you did.
The Bears.
I love the Bears.